What do you do if you get married and fancy doing a bit of travelling and glamping? Well, you go on the world's longest honeymoon, 7 years and counting, and then you write a book about it. This is exactly what Mike and Anne Howard did in 2012 with the book launched this month, and today they share their insights about what it's like to be comfortably wild. Welcome to episode 20. Glamping and unique holiday rentals are surging in popularity with the growing desire of customers to book holidays that deliver an experience. They are also the new business of choice for those wanting to improve their work-life balance. So how do you build a strong business like this that gives you the life you need and a great investment? I'm Sarah Riley, and I want to share what I've discovered after being immersed in this industry for over 20 years to inspire you to find out more about what's going on. Welcome, this is the business of glamping and unique holiday rentals. Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Have I got a corker for you? Today I am joined by Mike and Anne Howard, who have been getting comfortably wild for the last few years, and they have just written a book all about it, giving us their best glamping destinations in North America. As glamping businesses and people who are working in this industry, it's super important to understand the guest perspective, the customer's perspective, and to learn lessons from best practice from around the world. And this book does it in spades. It really does deliver both an experience for the consumer and also the business owner. I can't actually fathom what it must be like to actually go traveling for this long, to be on honeymoon for over 7 years and counting. It still hasn't finished, and I'm sure it's not quite as easy as we would like to believe. But the fabulous thing is that Mike and Anne, they share so many insights and so many golden nuggets about their glamping quest and encourage others to seek their own adventure. And that's what I love so much about this. In the interview today, Mike and Anne share some brilliant stats about the industry and some information about the industry, and there is so much to gain from reading this book. I'm incredibly happy to share it with you, and I'm happy to share the interview with you. And if you are going to be at the Glamping Summit in the USA in October, then that's where they'll be, and I won't be far away because they are promising spiced hot chocolate. So hopefully see you there. Over to the interview. So Mike and Anne, it's wonderful that you're here, and thank you so much for joining me. And I'm really excited to have you here because of the fact that you are on the world's longest honeymoon, and I really want to hear a bit more about that and your book and everything else you've been doing in the world of glamping. But Mike, you were just saying that how many days is that you've been traveling now?
Yeah, we've been on the road continuously for just over 2,700 days now. It was originally going to be a 1-year honeymoon, and then it turned into 2 and 3. And now we're just about to hit 8 years of full-time travel.
That's just stunning. I can't quite believe that. So tell me a bit about your backstory and how you find yourself in this situation.
Well, we were working normal jobs in New York City. I was a magazine editor, and Mike had a social network actually startup, and we were engaged in trying to pick a place for our honeymoon. We wrote them all down, and we're like, wow, this list is getting really, really long. Like, when are we going to go to these places? When are we going to have these experiences in our life? And kind of had this revelation of like, we better get started. And, what better time to do it than, when we're about to start a life together and celebrate a marriage. And what if we go to all of these places and do all of these things? So we, set aside the next year and just started saving like crazy, and basically said before our first anniversary, we will be on our honeymoon going around the world. And it just we realized how incredible the world is and how much we were learning and how the incredible people we were meeting, that we just thought like, why should this stop? And our blog, HoneyTrek, we originally started for family and friends, but that started to get a bit of notoriety. And is this the world's longest honeymoon, and getting written up by big magazines, and it just sort of took off. And then we fell in love with glamping along the way, which has brought us to where we are now. But
we've glamped it probably because we've done a lot of glamping. The book is mainly about North American glamping, but we've been glamped on 6 continents. We didn't glamp even when we went to Antarctica, but we've glamped on 6 continents and over 100 different glamping properties that we've experienced around the world. So,
well, we kind of, because it was our honeymoon, we had a moment, and this is the power of LinkedIn for all you business savvy people, is right before we're about to leave, we're like, we're about to go on this around the world honeymoon. Like, the time was going to be 500 days. Like, that's kind of cool, right? Maybe somebody would be interested, and literally found a board, because there is a group board for everything. And there was a honeymoon and romantic travel group on LinkedIn, and on a whim said, we're going on a 500-day honeymoon. Would anyone like to work with us? Honeymoons.com said, call me back immediately. And we wound up striking a partnership with them where it wasn't a formal paid thing or anything like that, but basically it set us off searching for the most romantic hotels around the world. And he said, you're young people. I trust your opinion. You also have a design background. You find what people think will be special. So we kind of had a keen eye for unique hotels around the world, starting from the very beginning of our trip. So we've had the privilege of reviewing hundreds of hotels, and some of them were glamping. And that always just sort of stuck with this, is us getting, into nature, having adventures, finding that the hotel owners always had a unique story, and just, it became a sort of intimate travel experience that we're like, this is what we love. This is what travel is about. And then, flash forward 5 years later, and we've been writing for glamping.com and writing about glamping on our own site. Falcon Guides, who's the publisher of our new book, Comfortably Wild, said, do you guys want to write a book about glamping? And we said, you don't have to twist our arm. Like, I see you've been glamping around the world, and there's really never been a destination guide about glamping in North America. Let's do it.
So what is it specifically that really attracts you to glamping? Is it the nature side of it? Is it the glam? Is it the luxury? What is it exactly?
For us, it's, we're not so much glam people, and we're kind of like, that term glamorous, it isn't really part of who we are. But I think everybody likes a little touches of luxury, like, a comfortable bed and a glass of wine after a long day on the trail. So those are nice side benefits. But for us, we're real nature lovers. We love being outdoors, and the combination, as kind of Anne alluded to, of these really unique people who start these properties, and anybody who's been glamping or runs a property knows that every single one is totally unique. There's no cookie cutter system where you just replicate it everywhere. So everyone's got a unique story, and we love searching those out, kind of connecting with that owner, hearing more about them, getting tours of their property. And then also the clientele that goes glamping is also self-selecting people who want to get out in nature, who want to have that relaxing, maybe deeper experience in nature. And so we love interacting with the guests as well. So it's that combination of being in nature, little touches of luxury, and the people.
I would also add that it's about, getting off the beaten track. I mean, there's a real problem over tourism with, even national parks. So someplace that's really meant to be a pristine nature, it is like traffic jams and campsites that are like, you can't even get a spot. And even still, you're sitting next to a guy running a generator. It like kills it for me. That is not how I would like my nature. So I think glamping is actually opening up all of these incredible wild spaces that are nameless and, are these like hidden gems. And it's really sort of on the blood, sweat, and tears of these owners who are passionate about nature and passionate about sharing it with like-minded, adventurers and nature lovers, that makes it so exciting, because this is like uncharted territory usually. And we travel full time. So that really excites us when we feel like we've found someplace that's not so traveled and truly special.
Exactly. So this book is a bit of a collection of those really special places that you found, but also your viewpoint of what it's all about. And I love the fact that you included some history there about where it's all come from.
Yeah, that was an interesting to dive into, because it's not a scholarly topic, really. Not much research has been done about glamping, but it's at the same time, it's, it's thinking about let's think about, okay, nomadic structures. The yurt is an ancient dwelling, teepees. People, nomadic people who, loved the ease of these lightweight structures that were portable. And that goes, we're talking, we go way back to like 15,000 BC, like the history of the hut, and forward to teepees and yurts, to then
Nobility,
thinking about,
like the nobility who traveled around Europe to visit other kings. And
it also went from, the history of nomadic people to almost military conquest, have a huge thing. The wall tent that the Romans created, not that far off from our wall tent today. And then, going forward to, like, exactly as Mike was saying, like military conquest and, the royalty going, well, I'm not going to slum it while I'm, war. I'm going to bring my mobile palace with me. And like the Ottoman Empire having like lavish, like palatial cities, and people, and then in the process of, even times without war, they go, it was kind of nice when we were outdoors all the time and had all our luxuries with us. And this carried on. So, and then the tradition of safari, and then the invention of the Airstream, like it goes forward to like recreation, people finding a way to bring their comforts to the outdoors. And then the 21st century, where it's just gotten more and more creative. And it's a really exciting time that is no longer this fringe thing or a military thing. It's
not new too. Like, it's not, even though the term glamping is relatively new and people think it's this kind of new phenomenon and new trend out there, but we really, as we dug into that rabbit hole and just started reading books and research, just different papers on the history of it, it was really interesting to see how deep this is and how much we can learn from the way people the reasons they used to glamp and the way they used to do it. Obviously, they weren't calling it glamping in the Middle Ages, but it was going on, and it's very relevant and timely now. So we were excited to make that a big part of the book, and not just have it be a travel guide. This is
the latest trend. Let's stop calling this a trend. This is, and especially when we talk about experiential travel, there was, Skift is I'm sure most of your audience knows Skift as a sort of a travel, this be all everything for the travel industry. And, when they came out with their experiential travel report, I think it was like in 2014 or 15, they're like, this is the new trend. And then basically they come out in like 2018 going, actually, like all trends stem from, it falls under the umbrella of experiential travel, because that is the essence of what people want anymore. They don't want cookie cutter experiences. So
it went from being a niche to being the umbrella of their entire report.
Travel is that people want a unique experience. And
absolutely
offers that. I'm preaching to the choir here, but
no, not at all. I love everything that you just said then, especially about, going back to when you're talking about the owners and their unique story and how you get to know them and connect with them, and then what they're delivering as a unique experience. And the experience is only limited by their imagination and the experience they give you. And I think that is all perfect, especially for the consumer, because they want these experiences now. And in the time that you've been traveling and going around, what has been one of your most memorable experiences? Is there one? Can you pick out one?
Oh my goodness. So it truly was, it was a 73,000 mile glamping quest where we went across from Canada down to Costa Rica, across the Caribbean, and 56,000 miles of it were done in our 1985 Toyota Sunraider camper. So wow. It was, we'd like to think we were glamping every day because our camper is just the cutest thing ever. But at the same time, we kind of got the camper to travel to these remote glamping destinations and really take our time. It was really important for us to not, to get the deadline from our publisher to be a huge lead time, because we wanted to physically go experience at these places. We weren't just going to lean on the listicles and the roundups. There are tens of thousands of articles written about the best glamping destinations. And we kind of
9 out of 10 of them have the same exact properties in every one.
The same mentioned again and again. And you know what? We went to some of those places and some were as fabulous as they said, and others kind of had lost some heart along the way. So heart was a really big piece of this. We wanted someplace that made you feel special and not just a number in their guest book. So that was a really big thing for us. And it was, not everybody made the cut. And, we always we might get a little flack for not including some of the classic places, but we're so excited to surface some really, unknown little spots some of them who originally might not have even billed themselves as glamping. But I was like, if you offer a truly unique experience in nature that makes your guests feel a part of it and totally at ease, well, in my mind, that is glamping. So it's an example that comes to mind. And this is probably, it's not on the fancy scale in the book. It's pretty low on the fancy scale, but it's super high on the awesome scale. And that is kind of how we determined it. No one's going to be roughing it in this book. You will always be comfortable. But if you are maybe pushed a little harder, it's because you're going to have some of the best memories ever from pushing yourself. So Teton Wagon Train Horse and Adventure, their website has not been updated in a very long time. But so they are descendants of the original guy who brought pioneers over the Teton Pass in the 1890s. So that family is still leading covered wagon journeys across the mountains from camp to camp and teaching you the full history of the West. They have such heart and soul because they want you to understand like sort of the cowboy way, and it's not in some sort of, it's really rooted in history and experience. So we were literally driving covered wagons.
Like we're driving the Clydesdales, we're pulling the chuck wagon.
And having Dutch oven cookouts each night and, sharing stories around the campfire and reading cowboy poetry and singing songs and just felt like we were really in on something special. So, and
then you'd roll up your cowboy teepee and throw it in the back of the wagon, and then you go 20 miles to the next destination.
As they've done for the past, 130 years. So that to me was an experience where it wasn't about the luxury, but it was about feeling completely at ease. I mean, they took care of everything. You're not lifting a finger, and you didn't pitch, you didn't cook a meal. It was all taken care of for you, but it was about really getting out there. So that's one example that comes to mind.
Did you feel more plugged into nature? Did you feel more grounded as you were going through that experience?
Oh, absolutely. And it's like you're sandwiched between two national parks. We're in a national forest that nobody goes to. So we were and then they have it all dialed in. So like you'd be on a wagon, or actually you could choose to horseback ride or hike because wagons don't go that fast. You'll catch them. And then there'd be a canoe waiting for you at the other end, and you take a paddle while they're cooking dinner. And it was one around. So pristine.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about Jeff, the owner there of Teton Wagon Train. Like when you meet this guy, he's this big burly guy and he's got his leather chaps on, and he's like, seems kind of gruff because he's like rounding up Clydesdales and trying to, lash them into these wagons. And then you just talk with this guy and you can hear in his voice, like the passion and his love of sharing this history. And, connecting with nature, there's many other ones that are even more in the nature side. But this one, to me, you're like connecting with history. Like you're getting a view into something that no one can ever see. Like you can go to a little show and go have dinner and see like a 2-hour show of cowboys and how it used to be like coming on a wagon, but you're living it. Like you're actually doing what people did 150 years ago, and they're doing it with such passion, and his kids are involved. Like two of his 3 children like run these tours with him. And it's like, it's a family thing. And I don't know, it's just, I'm getting like
authenticity
goosebumps.
Is truly like what it comes down to, right? Something as like the West, for example, which has been bastardized in many ways of like this, like, dream of the West. Like if it was real. And if you're going to experience the Tetons and you're experiencing something like a covered wagon, well, they are the people to do it. So we really tried to seek the people who are best at what they do and can offer a unique angle that no one else is doing.
And one of the things that really stood out for me in the book, because obviously I haven't been to these places, but just looking at the pictures, and one really pulled me in, and it was the peach farm in Phoenix. Everyone sitting and having dinner down in the orchard, and the magic of that social experience of everyone coming together under the lights in the night under the trees. And, just looking at that picture gave me goosebumps because it brings back so many memories of all the other times I may have sat at, around the campfire or the campsite or wherever with friends and family, and just really connecting with each other, which is something we don't do enough these days because we're all so busy. And that was that amongst many other pictures and information.
And they are an example of somebody who's doing just about everything right, and they're pretty new on the scene. They've had their farm for 80 years, but they've only added the Cozy Peach, which is about, I think it's 10 vintage trailers. And it's just the level of detail and the passion when you meet Carrie and Mark. Like, check-in starts with a piece of pie from the peaches they are known for and that they grow there. And they have the best little cafe ever. So, the check-in process is just, starting with that. And then, they do farm to table dinners with them on the weekends where they're cooking. And you can go take cooking classes from using the vegetables that you harvested that morning and cook it right there in the garden. Like, they're just, it is experiential travel to a T, and making, you feel really welcomed into their world. So check them out for sure.
And one on the topic of connection with nature that I just wanted to throw in that we really love was called Pequari Lodge down in Costa Rica. And this place, I mean, if you want to get connected to nature, and it's on the fancier scale, and in the book, our rooms range from $30 to $1,000. So there's the full range of glamping in there, and this one's on the high scale, but it's a unique lodge of the world. I think it's Relais and Chateau, and there's no electricity on the property, so everything's candlelit. They're built into the jungle. They built the rooms, so they had to cut down as few trees as possible on the property. So the rooms are all angled and built around trees, and you're there with like toucans, and it's on a jaguar sanctuary. This guy bought every little money he makes from the lodge. He buys more and more land around to try and protect the jaguar's land that's getting eroded. And also
being very aware of the indigenous cultures that are in the area as well. And, like making sure their trails are not cut into, and like, it's we talk about this. Playa Viva is also featured in the book, and David Leventhal is very forward thinking with his idea of not just sustainable travel, but regenerative travel, and people thinking about, not just like having a small footprint, but like, how can I make this place better? And, we tried to really pull people who have a very strong focus on sustainability, or better yet, thinking about the holistic impact on community, environment, and sort of like just basically the embetterment of the area.
Do you find that that's something that a lot of these owners actually show as qualities that they have, that they're really into the idea of protecting the local environment and enhancing it and making it stronger maybe, or giving people at least an opportunity to make better choices about how they spend their money and spend their quality time together in a more kind of environmentally friendly way? Is that something you've seen across the board, or is that just,
No, absolutely. And I think as more and more glamping places pop up, that's a differentiator in my mind, is how sustainable you are. Because a lot of people are just jumping on the bandwagon and, popping tents up, but they're not, it still has to come for a love of the land and the environment. And that was, there are plenty of beautiful places that we didn't include in this book because we didn't feel like their ethos was maybe as pure in a way, not to get all high and mighty about it. But Jim's saying, like, it really has to be about respecting the environment. And I think it's a great exercise for guests to kind of, sometimes there are limitations, air quotes around that in glamping, because wait, I don't have running water in my room, or I have a limited supply of electricity, or whatever it is. But it all just takes a moment to be a little more conscious. And I think that's what the world needs now, is just a higher level of consciousness about our consumption. And glamping like makes you look that in the face, but in a way that's not preachy, in a way that's still fun. And we were just actually at a big travel conference, the Adventure Travel World Summit, the other day here in Sweden. And, that was it. It's like, that was like my piece when we had a group amongst the media, is like, it's our job to make sustainability fun, and it doesn't have to be sacrificed. You just have to kind of ease people into it and show them that, like, it's for the greater good, but it doesn't have to be about sacrifice. And it's not that hard. And I think glamping is a great example of how sustainability can be fun.
And to educate people too. Like, I think a lot of, people who are used to going to normal hotels are used to a bottle of plastic water in their room. And glamping owners, surprisingly, sometimes do that as well. And they'll put that in their room just because they want to have this easy, luxurious experience. But I think the guests that are going there, and even the ones that might expect it when they get there and they see instead, a nice pitcher of water with a couple cucumbers in it, and it says, hey, this is fresh water for drinking. Whenever you need it refilled, come to the lobby, or we'll refresh it every day. Like, just those little touches show, that we're trying to save plastic from the environment. And then no guest would ever complain at that. Whereas when they see the water bottle there, you might think you're doing a service, but 75% of your guests are like, wow, is this place really, environmentally minded, as they say on their website about how much they care, but then they're giving me plastic water. So just little things like that you might think you're doing because you want to be a little bit fancier or upscale, but really that might be hurting your brand in the eyes of the consumer.
So from your point of view, do you think that's one of the most important things about a glamping stay, is to see those small touches and how they've thought through it all?
Oh, absolutely. And actually, we just wrote an article for the Glamping Summit, which is happening in Aurora, Colorado in late October, because they asked us to write a piece about, the 12 easy ways to make an unforgettable stay. And the opening line, if I can remember it, is basically like, thoughtfulness is the greatest luxury you can give a guest. And it's not about how fancy the things are. It's how much intention was put into the details and making that person feel really welcome, and that you're welcoming them into your world. And, there's a lot of competition anymore in glamping, but the one thing no one can compete with or can copy is you and your sort of spin on the world, and sharing your unique perspective and your unique place, and making that as giving a sense of place and meaning to all your little details, whether it's picking wildflowers directly from your property and putting a little vase by their bedside, or, having a thank you note that's maybe, watercolor of your property, or a photo that you've taken, or something that makes you feel like, wow, I know exactly where and why I'm here.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Absolutely and utterly. But as travel writers and influencers, I have to ask you, from your point of view, what do you think is really happening in this industry as a whole, in the travel industry and in the experiential industry and glamping industry, across the countries that you've traveled to, which are extensive? Have you got anything kind of as a kind of a number one that you think is happening at the moment, a kind of a move, a trend, a direction that we're all moving in?
Number one, eh? Well, I'll give my number one, and Anne can give her number one.
Okay.
I think it's a combination of, people want unique experiences, and I think people want a little bit more of a story, and that story could be a new adventure. It could be, some unique place that they've never seen on Instagram, this glamping property that none of their friends have ever heard of, that they got to experience. I think they want to come home with that story that's different than, I went to this all-inclusive in Cancun and got sunburned, which has been the story for 30 years. Like, they want something that's going to wow their friends, that's going to wow themselves and keep them excited. So I think adventure is a big part of those stories, and also just something unique, a unique property or a unique person that they met in that destination. I think that's my number one. If
I'm understanding the question about sort of what's happening in the industry, and I feel like the term digital detox is coming up more and more. Digital detox vacations, and that's really at the heart of glamping. And whether they're calling it that, glamping often fits into that category, because I think people truly are at a breaking point with all the screens in our face, and connectivity is too much, that we are having this break where you know what, we need to get outdoors. We need to find nature again. We need to show our kids what it means to touch a tree and play in the dirt. This is actually becoming very important. I mean, there was this is a stat I can share with you guys that, because we draw on the book as well about the scientific benefits of glamping and the health benefits of glamping. So what's happening in our world today, according to Apple, we interact with our smartphones around 80 times a day. And average American child spends 7 minutes a day in unstructured play outdoors, and more than 400 minutes a day in front of a screen. This is 400 minutes. That's crazy. And it's, we gotta make it stop. We actually have to make the effort to go, you know what? Walk away. We've got to walk away and remember what it is just to be outside, just have simple pleasures again, and not be so plugged in. So, because it's affecting people's health. It's causing, depression and anxiety and all of these things that nature is the best healer ever. So just getting out there as family and friends, I think, is is becoming apparent to not just the outdoorsy set who might have known already, like city people are really being attracted to glamping. And another thing I really do love about glamping is the sense of inclusivity. It is appealing to the city set. It is appealing to a lot more minorities that were not necessarily in the camping demographic, because you know what? They go, hey, I don't need to own any gear. I don't need any outdoor skills. It's all set up for me. Let's give this glamping thing a try. So like that's bringing in a big influx of glampers. And then also if you've read, we did so much research, so I'm like, it's an audience who can totally geek out with me. I'm going to share glamping stats with you guys. So the KOA North American Camper Report, we read the 2017 and the 2018 at the last minute. We caught their 2019 one before we went to press.
Yeah.
They didn't really talk about glamping in 17 and they barely talked about it in 18. Well, 2019, it was a huge focus. They surveyed their group and they said 45% of all campers said they would like to experience glamping in the coming year. And that's a rate that's doubled since 2018. So holy moly, this cannot be ignored. And, you know, giants like KOA are going, this is the proof. Like
They're
we
putting
have to
glamping in a lot of
this.
their campgrounds, and
They're adding a ton more glamping. So it's very real.
One touch on the digital detox, because I think, this is very relevant to a lot of the glamping owners or prospective owners that are listening. People, when they hear digital detox, they think, okay, well, then I don't need any Wi-Fi at all, and I don't need cell signal, and like that'll be totally fine because I'm going to help my guests get remote, and that can be a little bit of a shock to the guests. So when we think of digital detox, like an optimal experience for us is not that we need Wi-Fi in the room, because then you'll have people, streaming Netflix instead of being out, but to have a Wi-Fi available maybe in a common area near the check-in or where you do breakfast, so you can, just check in and make sure that nothing's on fire at work or at home if you're away for a romantic weekend.
That's a real fact, by the way, is that people like that helps because people are very busy and they do have things they have to check on, but not at the level that we're like obsessing about. Mm-hmm. So it actually was a part of the study as well, was that having a little bit of Wi-Fi helps people go, okay, now I check my thing, but I'm going to go back to having fun with my family. But it let them stay out for longer. So as a business strategy, it let them extend their vacations. They didn't feel like they had to rush back because they were getting behind. So we'll do list that Wi-Fi as like an actual legit amenity that's important to them.
Yeah. And then another thing is when you say digital detox, it's one thing to have limited cell connectivity and limited Wi-Fi, but then you need to provide the guests something to do with their time, because not everyone is creative and some people, will get bored. So you'd be surprised how many glamping places that we've stayed at where they say, we're off the grid, we're getting remote. And they would say, okay, well, what is there to do? And they're like, well, we don't have any trails. And we're like, okay, well, do you have like bocce or any lawn games we can play? Oh, no, we don't have any of that. Just like relax and read one of the books from our library. And that might be good for some percentage of the audience, but, of your visitors. But you want to have, come up with a little trail map, even if it's on some little, deer paths or, roads, forest roads where people can walk and explore part of the woods, or have some all the animals they can find in the forest, a little checklist for the kids to play, like see how many of these, flowers you can find, and have some lawn games, go spend $100 and pick up a bocce and a cornhole set. So for that, group that does want to have a little social in the evening around the campfire or grab a beer and play horseshoes, like those are things that you can have all three of those games for $100. That's a no-brainer to just have in the back. So when someone asks, or you can say, and we've got these on reserve, on offer for you guys, to just give them things to get outside and have fun with their families, so they don't kind of get in that bored, like, well, okay, I'm just going to hop online because there's nothing else to do while my husband's fishing or while my wife's fishing or whatever.
Yeah, it's fantastic advice. Absolutely, definitely need to get more games out there. People need to play together. Those who play together stay together. That's an old saying for a reason. And I think absolutely. And it helps because as you said, you can't just switch off and expect people to just go back into this slower way of life without the internet. To give them a little hand to move into that slowly so that they find that a comfortable transition. So important. And we've got a lot we can learn from you, but especially from the book. So Comfortably Wild is going to be available from when?
October 1st.
And how can people get a copy?
It is
it's up in pretty much all the bookstores: Amazon, Books a Million, Indigo, Barnes and Nobles. So yeah, it's up in the UK.
And then it kind of as a central hub, HoneyTrek.com. So that's HoneyTrek.com/comfortably-wild. We list all the different booksellers. We also list our book tour dates. We're going to spend the month of October going on tour around the US, East Coast, West Coast, and some sort of fun behind the scenes stories of how this whole journey happened, and videos and all that kind of fun stuff to bring the book to life. And also, to meet us as well. We're going to be speaking at we're going to have a booth at the Glamping Summit. And, we hope to meet some of you guys.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to meeting you again. I saw you at the last Glamping Summit in Denver, and I seem to remember, Mike, I think you were in the camper van outside or something. I think you were really tired from traveling all the way down, but Anne, we had a lovely conversation. But I'm really looking forward to that. And all the links, if you could give me all the links, and I'll include those in the show notes, and that's going to be on inspiredcamping.com/020, as it's episode 20, and I'll include everything in there, including the fact that you have very kindly offered to do a book giveaway. So if anybody wants to get their hands on a free copy of your book, Comfortably Wild, then I will put all the details in there of how you can enter, and I look forward to announcing the winner in social media. So make sure that you take a look at all of that. And it's been such a pleasure to talk to you today, Mike and Anne. And so tell me what's next for you. Well, you're in Sweden at the moment. Where are you going next?
We've just we're exploring around Europe a bit before the book tour. I was Sweden and Denmark and Germany and the Netherlands. But then we're actually thinking of taking our camper to Baja, Mexico for the winter. And then we might ship the camper to Europe and do a little glamping on this side of the pond.
Oh, wow. What an adventure you're on. I am so envious. Oh, well, I can't wait to follow on your social media channels about what you're doing and everything you're getting up to, and look forward to that. And, look forward to as well meeting you at the summit. And I can't wait to hear more about what you get up to and any other future books that you start to release.
Well, and also one thing about the book, Sarah Riley is one of our experts that we interview. So she brings a lot of wisdom to the topic, as you know, and it was very important to include the voices of the industry, and Sarah really did have some gems, nuggets of wisdom. So yes, thank you for that, Sarah.
And to anyone that are listening, HoneyTrek's our website, but then across social, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and YouTube, if you just do @HoneyTrek, you can ask us anything about glamping or ideas you've got or questions about the book or anything. We're happy to have a glamping conversation with anybody at any time.
Absolutely.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you so much, guys. It's been lovely chatting to you today, and I'll make sure that all the links you mentioned are in the show notes so people can head on over there and just click away and get involved in the conversation.
Thanks so much, and we'll see all you guys in the woods.
Oh, you take care. Bye.
Cheers.
What an absolute pleasure it was to speak to Mike and Anne today, and it was an even bigger pleasure and an honour to be invited to speak and be interviewed for the book. It really is a fabulous book, and I've seen it, and I'm very happy to say that the giveaway that Mike and Anne have offered to one of our lucky listeners is happening right now, and you can find out more about that and all the links mentioned in this interview over on inspiredcamping.com/020. That's 020, as this is episode 20. Now, to make sure that you don't miss out on any future interviews or exciting releases of episodes, make sure you subscribe, and also come and join us over in our Facebook group. To get there quickly, you just have to put in www.inspiredcamping.com/Facebook, and we'd love to see you there.